No, she failed.
Giving me a workout.
I don't know why you're bothering it, I'm gonna break it as soon as it starts. I do that with cameras, you know.
Is that what you did the other day?
What-
You bumped over it or something?
I bumped over everything, I'm the clumsiest oxy goes. All right, Miss Janet, you ready to go? Ready to go? Good evening and welcome to the August 27th meeting of the Roadway Equestrian Trail Greenway Advisory Committee. Normally, we say a pledge to allegiance to the flag. We do not have a flag, but I still like to say a pledge of allegiance to our country, so if we can.
Send you one for the Retgac.
Why not? Oh, let you start.
No, go on.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, y'all. Make it safe. All right, thank everyone for coming, the packed house. I'm sorry for the accommodations, but we were lucky we have a roof, and more especially we have air conditioning. So that's a good thing. We called the meeting to order, so may we have a roll call, please?
Keith Harris.
Present.
Chair Harris.
Present.
Vice Chair Siciliano.
Here.
Committee, Member Corning.
Here?
Committee Member Strelo.
Here.
Committee Member Danowski. She is not here tonight.
Okay, so we're 4 and 1 missing. May we go to the approval of tonight's agenda? May we have a motion for someone to approve the agenda?
I have a little bit of a, this was a little bit of a surprise to me that the 3 minutes were in there, because I've been asking for them prior, and we got them at 5 o'clock Friday, which, you know, it was quite a bit of work for me. You mean last Friday? This last Friday at 5 o'clock was the email to us, or at least to me.
So 5 days ago.
Right.
Okay.
And, you know, when I have to go through the minutes that are from 2 years ago, that's a little bit more time.
All right, so do you not want to approve tonight's agenda, or what's the committee's pleasure?
Do you want to move them to another time? Do you think next time I at least can get through them? I appreciate that. I mean, I asked to go and see them, you know, 2 months, and again, in an email to please review them at my own time, and if it's 2 years ago for me to remember, it's not like off the top of my head, I should have done it.
Well,
I mean,
because
you were the
they're
only
2
one
years,
that-
I know, because they're 2 years ago,
Exactly.
this is not something I would accept anyway, because I can't remember. So I'm certainly not going to vouch for their correctness or anything, and I wouldn't vote on them anyway. So I see no point in, aside from maybe just saying we'll keep them in our records, I don't think we need to do anything else with them.
That would be a consensus situation. We need to just put them away.
Mr. Chair, that's
Yes,
what I would
please.
advise. We have spent, I think, 3 times, three different people have taken these minutes and have tried to work with them to get them into a form that was appropriate. So at this point, you know, if that's the will of the board, we'll just file them. But I mean, we don't want to spend any more time. I think there's been enough staff time, enough time going over these minutes.
And the fact,
It's already on our 3rd clerk past the minutes, so it's, you know.
and the fact that we only have 2 members of that committee that read those
Correct.
minutes, so there's no way that this committee can really respond to them. So the thought was, we either, in a consistent form, have them filed, or just have them filed as they are.
We will file them and put a note on them explaining the situation.
And It's
Take care
a
of it.
housekeeping chore,
Yes.
basically, is what we're trying to do here, for that issue. So.
Okay,
if
so
maybe-
I make a motion that we delete item 4B from the agenda, as we are just going to send those minutes to files.
Do we have a second for such a motion?
I second the motion.
Do we have any further discussion on this motion? Not hearing any further discussion, shall we bring it to a vote? All in favor of accepting the motion to put the minutes in file as they are without any further consideration, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
Who was your second?
Ms. Joe Ciliano. So back to the current agenda. Do we have approval of the current agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda as changed.
I second that.
We have a second. Is there a need of discussion? Hearing no need of discussion, may we vote to accept the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes 4-0. We have a presentation we offer this evening under item 3 of our presentations. Mr. John Carter of Minto, and is Don?
John here.
Your Don here is here, and John is the.
John is still not made it here yet, so he's,
Traffic.
You skipped over the minutes under number 2.
Well, bless my heart. I'm just trying to get this thing rolling. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. Thank you for bringing that up. So the approval of the minutes of the April 23rd, 2014 Retgac meeting. Do we have any consideration to make a motion to accept these?
I had a question. Was it understood when on the page 3 of the agenda, was it understood that I had emailed the FERDA information and it just didn't make it out to you guys, so therefore we didn't discuss it? Because it wasn't that I hadn't emailed it. Was that understood in there, in your opinion?
So you're saying that they just didn't get it, not that you didn't send it?
Yeah, I'm actually not even sure whether they were called administrative rules or not. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was further information that I had brought in that we were going to discuss and see the deadlines. And I had then emailed them to Janet and forward, and I think something happened.
All right, do you wish to revise
Not
this?
just, we can either, we can just simply, whatever I had forwarded, I remember the NATO map didn't make it. But the rest of the stuff, did it make it? I think it might not have. Do you remember, Jen?
Well, how-
In the meeting, as part of the meeting itself?
Yeah, but basically what it states right now is board member Corning noted the board did not receive deferred up administrative rule via email. There was nothing to discuss.
Are you saying that's inaccurate, or how do you want to change it?
That was the meeting that we had a problem. Remember, we had to split up. We didn't get the minutes, and we didn't get that document either.
Okay, so we had to.
So we had to postpone it. We never did get
Okay.
it, or the board never did get it.
Okay. So that's basically what you're, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine then.
You did say that, right? You're not,
Well, I
you're not
did know,
contesting that
well,
you
I
said
know
it.
that we all had a conversation, we didn't get it. I know that I had asked for things to be mailed out, and I think there was a misunderstanding with the NATO map. She didn't understand that that was supposed to be mailed out also, but it's fine.
All right, so
Yeah.
do we have a motion to accept these minutes as they stand?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as is.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes of the April 23rd, 2014 Retgac meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes 4-0. Now.
You were second? You were second.
Nina second. Kathy made the original motion. And Presentations is under our third item on the agenda, and Mr. Cutney, you would like to make some remarks.
Well, I just wanted to, for the purposes of the committee and anybody who is here, the Chair had asked that we schedule and have Don Herring and John Carter from Minto to provide a presentation to this committee. One thing I want to make clear, right now, the town council, by a vote of 3-0 with 2 abstentions, passed a resolution in opposition to the Minto development. And as a result, as town manager, I am bound to continue to enforce that expression of policy via the resolution. I think they're here just to give you information and an update and a presentation about their project. However, there is no action that this committee is to take or bound to take.
Agreed.
So I just wanted to get that on for the record. Don is here, I'm sure he'll give you a fantastic presentation. They did come last night to the FAAC and provided them with a presentation, and it was very tastefully done. The FAAC asked questions, so it worked very well. So I wanted to get that on the record.
I'd like to get one more thing on there, and that is, you know, if they're coming to us with, we're no longer advisory, in a sense, and they're collecting all the places of where they've supposedly have, or made their presentations as part of their public outreach and working with the community. And that's how it's been used. You know, I was very surprised to see it on the agenda, to be frank. If they're now presenting, we are not making comments. Because if we make comments, then those comments are going to be recorded and potentially can be used. Unless it was a direction from the council to ask us for conditions, not based on their approval, but kind of things that we would be looking for, then that would be a different animal.
Let me repeat what I said, because I think you're taking it off into another direction. What I said was, the policy of the town council, they have voted against the Minto development, they do not support it, by a 3-0 vote. The chairman had asked that they come and provide a presentation. You can ask them questions, you can make comments, there is no action required of you. If you don't choose to make a comment, you don't have to. If you don't choose to ask a question, you don't have to.
Do we have to listen at all? I don't understand why the presentation is on our agenda. It is
May-
not
For the third time,
anything-
the chairman had requested it.
May I offer
Which
comment?
chairman?
This chairman, right next to you.
And why is it that we don't receive this before that's actually, I mean, why do we receive it, these kind of things, why do we receive them when it's already out in the public, when it's already published? I mean, normally, in the old days, we got it a little bit ahead of time. And I know maybe you guys were really, really busy, and I understand that, that's happened sometimes. But now what seems to happen is we get everything the same time
Remember,
as
Connie,
it's
this
out
is
in
a
the public.
presentation. There is nothing
Right.
for you to review, nothing for you to do, except either hear it or not.
The
Well,
chairman
in that
would
case,
like
you
to
can agree
speak.
disagree for it to be
The chairman would like to speak. I made this request after the offer was shared with me by town management. I see an approved project of 2,995 homes, more or less, and so many square feet of space. To quote the treasurer of the water district, Mr. John Ryan, there are our neighbors. What is the problem, other than the developer wanting to increase his stake, which the town has taken exception with, and I respect that position, and I respect that resolution. However, as a neighbor, they wish to share some thoughts that might possibly be of interest and benefit. I'm not finished, please. It's an opportunity for a neighbor to share with neighbor. We do not have to agree with anything that's being said. We do not have to give in to anything. But we, out of respect for our neighbors who wish to speak to us, we should listen. And that's why it was put on the agenda.
Didn't we already do that at the town council? They did present at the town council.
They are here to speak to this committee. So, is there any other scenarios, or shall we continue with the presentation?
Do you, Mr. Chair?
I would like to continue with the presentation.
May I also remind you that we made a resolution that outside parties have a, what was it?
10 minutes.
That's not a problem.
Well, good.
Yes, sir. Again, my apologies for your delay. Would you like to start? Do I need to hold up any placards for you?
No, I don't think so, and I'll be pretty short. My name's Don Hearing, and I'm the land planner for Minto West. And the first thing that I'll say is that, we've made presentations to the town council, but we've not had the opportunity to sit down and to dialogue into what I would call an adult conversation, where we could discuss specifically concerns, objections, and how we mitigate those. And so I just so everyone is well aware, we're available at any time, at any call, to sit down and to discuss opportunities as neighbors where we can collaborate and make things better. So really that's probably the first message that we would say. We have listened. We've made many changes to our plan, and I'm not going to try to go over all of those. We made many changes to our plan, and I would tell you, in direct response to what we've heard, but in the absence of really being able to sit down and have any dialogue, we would tell you that despite the fact that there is, your council has a resolution opposing our project, we have met with your water control district, and we are looking at ways where we can collaborate together. For example, in the dry season, you guys could probably benefit with some water connections from our community that would provide water during the dry season to Loxahatchee Grove. We have the ability to do that as we design our project and set the stages. And so those are the types of collaborations that we're looking for. My main interest in meeting with you folks today, not really to tell you all the details of the project that I'm sure Nina she's probably heard it a number of times. There are a lot of very positive things about the project, and if you were to compare it with what's approved for what we're proposing, there's some pretty significant benefits, in our opinion, that are there. I'm not here to try to sell you on that, but what I would like to understand is that we do have a desire to see how we can best fit in with the equestrian community, with the trail systems that you guys are working with the county on, and how they may best interface with our project, things that we might do within our project to further the goals and objectives of everybody as a region. Whether it's built at 2996 or something else, we see the equestrian trail system and that environment as an amenity that will help sell homes. I'm a planner, so like the good doctor over here, I always like to learn. And I don't know everything about horses. I've met with the Horsemen's Association, and we've on a number of occasions, the Acreage Horsemen's Association. We're not looking for trying to get an endorsement. We're there. We really want to understand, and they taught me a lot. And I'm excited about those opportunities. And so, I have this one exhibit here. It's probably the appropriately scaled for this room. But since it's a relatively small room, one of the elements that Minto owns is the M2 canal. The M2 canal is a 200-foot right-of-way that extends from the Minto property all the way down to the C51 canal. There's an opportunity there to provide for a trail system for equestrians or a trail system for pedestrians. And to the extent that it could link into any of your trails, and that's a benefit, we're here. It's to the extent that you have thoughts on how that trail system should be developed, what it should look like in terms of being equestrian friendly. That's really what we're interested in getting from you all. And I don't need to get it tonight, but truly as a planner, I want to be able to plan those things and understand how they work. Also, as a result of our project design, we have a vast amount of open space. Actually, over 2,000 acres, about 21 acres of open space. So 55% of the site, which is areas that are located out of our development pods, will be open space. And we have several parks. We have 125-acre regional park in the western area of the site along our southern boundary. And there are opportunities for some equestrian amenities to be provided in that park. We'd love to have your feedback as to what those could be or should be. Should it be something as simple as, opportunities for barrel racing? Should there be something? Should be there something more? And because of the fact with the proposed plan, we're proposing a minimum of a 400-foot buffer in all areas of the site except for one small area that's already constrained by the school, and largely will be a park, which we'll be dedicating to the county. And because we have such a large area, our design of our buffers, which are intended to be dense native pine areas, reforested pine areas, we do have the opportunity to provide equestrian trails within those areas, as well as providing connectivity either to the north, and I know one of the discussions that we have is along 140th Street, and we certainly know that you have no desire to have 140th come to the south and connect, so that's not why I'm saying 140th, but along 140th, we are actually creating a pathway system, a multimodal equestrian pathway system, which the county calls a rural parkway, and there's a gap between where our kind of equestrian trail would end until you get to the county's preserve site. And so, we see an opportunity certainly to work with Loxahatchee Groves to help kind of fit that missing gap. And we've had some discussions with the Acreage Horsemen's Association about potentially working together as we move forward about trying to get some sort of connectivity across the M Canal. Not for cars, but for basically for equestrians. And so we're here really to get your ideas. We have lots of open space. We truly do want to be a good neighbor, and if you read the media, you probably would have the idea that we've done nothing to be sensitive to Loxahatchee Groves, and the reality is that we have listened. And if you look at the area along Loxahatchee Groves, we've greatly reduced our density. In some areas, we have 1,000 feet setback from any residential development, and then very in the same way to the west, because I know that you all are, we heard today about, well, what's GL Homes and other people to the west going to do? We very set, just from a planning and land use perspective, we tried to help by making it very, very clear that we've actually established a line where there's going to be no development. And that line is kind of the pattern where there's existing development in Loxahatchee Grove. So to the west, well over a mile from of area from where we have development to our western tip, just will be left and remained in continued agricultural production. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have, but really the message is we'd love to learn a little bit more about your trail system and how, whether Minto goes forward in this way or another way, how can we best integrate, and then also to reiterate, we're available to have open dialogue with anybody. And we have reached out to many, many people to say, hey, let's just sit down in a room and talk. And we haven't gotten that. I mean, we have a resolution that's against us, but when we call out to talk, to try to dialogue, nobody wants to dialogue. So please understand that invitation remains open, because something is going to get approved. And it might not be exactly this, but something is. And if we work together at it, and we can understand everybody's concerns, and there's opportunities to address those concerns, we certainly have the ability to to listen and to respond. So that's my presentation. I won't say anything else. But at some point in time in the future, I'd love to get copies of your maps so that we can map them and understand how everything fits together, and also understand how we can work together with you all to provide some amenities in the park that might be beneficial to the equestrian community. And in no way were we trying to compete with Wellington. We just see this as an opportunity to ultimately be a benefit to even our residents. I'm sure as a number of the young girls, as they're out here and they get involved and see what's happening in the equestrian community, they're going to fall in love and want to have the opportunity to participate. And so that's what we're here for.
Thank you, sir, very much for taking the time to speak with us. Is there any members of the committee who would like to offer comment?
I have a quick question. The M2 canal you were talking about?
M2 canal, which is this canal right here.
Runs.
It runs from it's west of Seminole Pratt by like a block, and it's 200 feet wide in right of way. The canal I think is about 60 feet wide, and then there's like 60 feet on either side of the canal that's open space.
And you said you own that? Is that what you said?
We own that in fee, yes. So we own that in fee. All the way down, there's a small gap between the C-51 canal or Southern Boulevard and the portion that we own where we have an easement on, but we have rights on it.
Joe, does that, any other questions for him?
Do you
No.
wanna know where that ends up?
He said it went to
On Southern?
C-52, right?
Yeah,
It was the Southern and
But we are on Southern.
Right at, it would end up right
Flying
at,
Cow?
it would, I've got a small one, it would end up,
Flying Cow?
yeah, is that what it's Flying Cow? I don't know, it's
You're
wherever.
trying to help me out?
Yeah, it ends up, I'm not saying it goes to a location that's desirable, but there's lots of opportunities to feed to it, I guess,
It can be developed.
is the thought process.
Last night, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Nothing?
I'm reserving mine.
Last night, you indicated at the Finance Advisory Committee meeting that you were considering doing some trail implementation around the perimeters of.
Yeah, we're looking at doing about 15 miles of trail. And we have had dialogue with the horsemen, trying to find out where they see it most desirable. We do, in my limited knowledge, understand that crossing Seminole Pratt is probably not something that's a viable activity, but there's an opportunity to have a trail system that would connect along the western half of the site, and a trail system on the eastern half of the site, and then the opportunity for connections to the M Canal, so that it would basically provide an opportunity for somebody who wanted to come through the trail system to have access to it along at least an area that's protected from vehicles, because there's no cars or any interference with that.
You may consider some question control crossings. It's used in Wellington on Pearson Road, 4 different locations. Town council has approved 2 locations on Okeechobee that we're trying to get Palm Beach County to approve. That's something that y'all might consider to connect your main trails along with your M2 trails.
And I'm asking you just from a technical perspective, would something like that be desirable on Seminole Pratt Whitney as we design it? I mean, or is that something
Do you have an
that's
understanding of what Seminole Pratt Whitney is gonna look like?
Seminole Pratt will be a 4 to 6-lane road.
6-lane road of Southern's plan, who is also putting in controlled crossings at BNF Road.
But not
on
the
Southern.
kind that we were proposing at Okeechobee is my point.
No. Well, there are multiple different kinds of things that can be done.
Just making
So-
sure that we have understanding so they don't go.
Well, I don't think the specifications of what we talked about have been shared, because this is more of a casual conversation than an action activity.
But certainly would be something that we would be interested in understanding. We do understand that, the crossing, the horses and cars don't mix, and how you make that happen.
Thank you.
If there's an opportunity, we'd love to know more about it and how that can work.
I have nothing else, Ms. Thornton.
My concern is you have almost doubled the number of homes. You have 800-fold, 900-fold the non-residential area from the original proposal. And, I see some of the green area that you've now, with the changes from the 6,500 down to the 4,546 on the very western portion. We are basically underneath some of your most dense area. And, a 400-foot buffer, quite frankly, is, it's almost just a lot size for us. It's about what that buffer looks like, considering the tremendous amount of development that you're proposing, the magnitude of it, which is creating, what is it, 76, I think my numbers wrong here. Over 70,000 trips of external traffic. It's gone 8% up from your original proposal. And when you're looking, I'm sorry, I wasn't
those
done.
numbers are accurate, but
Those are the numbers that were produced by the traffic study, so.
yeah, the number of external trips is about 60,000, and they go out in many different.
And I'm not gonna split hairs between 60,000 and 76 or 78 or 70,000. The fact is that the area now has tremendous amount of traffic that we have to survive somehow as we are trying to use the proposed areas you're suggesting. I mean, when we're looking at the M2 canal, that's, we're not quite sure how we'd get to it, because it's going through land that we don't control.
There are numerous roads that lead to it,
Well,
and many of them.
roads that are, right now as it is, none of the roads can carry the capacity, and who knows where traffic's gonna flow. You have an issue, I saw some of the trails where you're coming up out of here and dumping the trail, the horse trail, right by Persimmons and 140th. 140th that you're making into the rural parkway. Persimmons, where the majority of all of this residential development is gonna come on out. I mean, some of it's gonna come out 60th, some of it is going to come out.
30% of our.
Right, 15 and 15 is what you're projecting.
30% of our traffic will go to the
Well,
east on those two roads. That's
Right, and if you make the calculation of how much is 30% of 70,000,
The difference
It's a
between,
tremendous amount.
the difference between the plan that's approved and the plan that's proposed on both 60th and Persimmons is basically 2 cars per minute. During the peak hour, 2 cars per minute additional that are there. So with 2 cars per, we do think that there's a good opportunity to do an equestrian trail system along that boundary, because our setback from 140th is about, it's about 1,500 feet. And so we have an opportunity to be able to separate that from the cars and to put, pine trees and a native buffer to provide some comfort to an equestrian trail. And certainly an opportunity possibly to connect to the park to the south. And so with those grade crossings at those locations makes some sense. I understand.
I really wasn't finished.
Okay.
making my
Oh.
point. What I'm saying is you've made a short 15-mile track in there. You have a community who does not and will not own horses.
None of them will, because none of them will be permitted to. And then, how, you know, who's going to even continue maintaining these trails that these people will have no interest in within the community? You have,
Want me to answer the question?
let me finish for now. You have a huge canal to transfer, to go to this area up on 140th. The M1 canal to get over. This part, we already get into. We get into it off the southern part of North Road, and it comes out on 40th, okay? 130th is the trail of Indian Trail. That is where the horses are currently supposed to go up. And a lot of that is in danger with the amount of traffic that you're going to be spilling out on the back side. I don't know how aware you are of the NANA map, but the idea of being able to connect all the way from Wellington up to the NANA map and actually make sense out of this western community and not get run over in the process, that would be what this committee would probably be more interested in than to see such a magnitude of development plopped in the middle of it to add more traffic problems to that ability to get there.
Well, the project is going to go forward in one form or
another,
and-
absolutely.
And, you know, at the 2996, and I'm not gonna get into, you know, all the issues, it's, you know, in my opinion, other than traffic, which I think we can deal with, is more impactful and it's less compatible than what we're proposing because of the buffers. And, you know.
Whoa, wait a minute, you guys haven't been
Let's
through
wrap it up.
zoning yet. You have
Let's
not
wrap it
been
up.
through zoning yet.
Let's
With-
wrap it up.
With the previous proposal. I've not
But the
been
buffers
through.
were established. The buffers were established at 100 feet. But I'm glad to know that, I guess I learned something, that this is 130th, right? That's a main corridor. And, you know, we'll look at seeing what we can do. I talked about some grade crossings. Where might I be able to find some of the designs of different grade crossings? Mark, could you provide us access with what you might, if there is something that's approved as far as the design? Because, I mean, I think that there's certainly the opportunity, whether it's at 2996 or what we're proposing, to integrate those crossings into our plan. Because we do want to be sensitive to it. And, you know, personally, we think that a lot of our homeowners will own horses, and that they will keep them in the stables within Loxahatchee Groves or within the acreage. I mean, I've got 2 employees that work for me in Jupiter that live in the east side of town that both have horses. And they store their horses, you know, they have their horses basically out in Jupiter Farms. So here, where it's really could be a part of a lifestyle and a great amenity, we see it as being a benefit, and we see it as an opportunity to market and to educate our homeowners of the value of the equestrian community, what surrounds them, about safety within the equestrian community. So I think there's a lot of things that we can work on together.
Is there any public comment? Dr. Luna?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments and a question. Since you went dialogue, I heard you mention water, providing it to us in the dry season. Our dry season is your dry season. And you've also mentioned in public forums before that you're going to be providing filtered water, filtered marshes. Filtered marshes only work at about 1 meter to 1.5 meters depth because you need the subaquatic vegetation and the periphyton to remove the nutrients. It happens to be what I study. So 1 meter to 1.5 meters depth in the dry season goes down. There's parts of stormwater treatment areas out here you can walk on in the dry season. So water retention and filtration were really 2 separate items. So you either have deep lakes cut into the aquifer, don't worry about that, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, that's just an informational content. The other one is sort of a tongue-in-cheek question/comment. is I brought up over and over to planning staff that currently there's 0.3 million square feet of built commercial CLO, commercial low office, out here on the North Lake, Seminole, Pratt, Whitney, and what we have in Loxahatchee Groves. Planning staff completely ignores Loxahatchee Groves all the time. And 1.1 million square feet in these same areas of approved but not yet built. That's 1.4 million square feet of approved CLO out here already. How, and I asked them a couple of times, and Brian Davis did not refute me. I said, what about this stuff? Isn't this factory? Oh, that doesn't fall into the planning process. I don't understand that. My question is, there's a thing called Silver Lakes in your southeast corner, okay? Are you going to, when that comes forward for development, are you going to allow connection from Silver Lakes into your property or through your little southeast corner slit over to 140th and the acreage? Because I and a bunch of other people will fight like the devil for that not to be developed and connected to Loxahatchee Grove. We don't need any more traffic. And then you said that you realize that 140th and E doesn't want developed. I was very instrumental in getting that off the thoroughfare plan. And you're right there. That would start a war, a downright war for any connectivity to reinitiate the 140th E Road thoroughfare. That would rip this county apart. Anyway, the real question then is, have you given any consideration to the, I think it's called Silver Lakes area, the little missing triangle area there in your southeast?
You know, at this point, we haven't. It is there. It's our neighbor, and I would think at the time that they were to do anything, you know, we would get together with all our neighbors and devise a plan that makes the most sense. The one that mitigates the most impacts. Our roads that we're building are going to be public roads that we're going to dedicate to the public. We're not doing a gated community. It's going to be an open community. And we're doing it very, very sensitively. The lake areas, we will have hundreds of acres of filter marsh. The key is that we will set our stages such that we can maintain them. Because we have the right to discharge, we'll make sure that we get our stages set at the right location so that we don't have the extremes that you typically have with water in the dry season. You know, a good example is, you know, if you go over to Sandsbury Way, I designed all the wetland mitigation over there by King's Academy for the county, the Sandsbury Way, and it's highly effective. And at the time we went forward, Water Management District was fighting us on the elevations. And we demanded that our stages be set at a certain location. Because, as you said, you need 1.5 to 3 feet of water depth in order to really maximize the ecological benefits of the marshes, and you need a little bit of fluctuation. So a little bit of fluctuation is good. So we anticipate hundreds of acres of lower marsh. We don't want to dig all of our lakes to China, and as you know, that doesn't necessarily provide for storage. Storage is what's above the water and the ground. That's the volume. I could dig to China. I'm not going to provide 1 additional ounce of storage. You know, if you're doing a Palm Beach aggregates where you're kind of creating a reservoir, that's a different scenario. But we have talked about working with your water control district to set the stages here such that they could be of some benefit to your community during the dry period.
One quick follow-up on this is just sort of a historical point. The reason Loxahatchee Groves was developed in 1917 is that on an average, okay, the mean height above sea level is 22.5 feet in Loxahatchee Groves. It's 20 feet in the acreage. We're already 2.5 feet higher on an average.
Another.
Good to know.
Yes, sir. I apologize. I don't want to insult you with an improper enunciation of your name.
My name is Long Chiu. I'm
Thank you, Mr.
on
Chiu.
Bureau, also serve on the Finance Committee. Our standpoint, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Finance Committee. I'm just speaking for myself. From a citizen standpoint, I see this group as an expert in the horse activities. I would suggest, Don, that when you guys start to have more detailed planning for the site, get comments from this group regarding the trails. Make sure that you can accommodate as much as possible from your $60 million donation to the county. That's put the money in our area. I think that would be a great idea. And then also make sure I'm sure you guys will make sure the trail design, everything will meet the safety requirements and make the best for us, please.
And we, I appreciate your comments, because that's what I'm here, that was why I'm here. I wasn't here today to lobby you or tell you all about what we're doing with the project. What was to really understand how can the question activities best integrate, and to make you aware of the assets that we have, meaning the M Canal, our perimeters, so that you could provide us with feedback and recommendations. And I would say, the sooner you could get us that information, would be the better, because we are actively designing and actively looking at ways to make things better, to provide connections. We're not there. We don't want this information to go say, well, we met with this group and their support. That's not the intent of us being here. I didn't expect that here. I expected to really just to get the feedback and then to communicate that we're here to talk and meet at any time.
I will share with you that with the council's resolution, that before any activity occurs from this committee with regards to interaction with the Minto developer, we would have to have direction from town council. And we'll see what town council's pleasure is on the issue. Any other public comment before we continue with tonight's meeting? Seeing none, sir, I would like to thank you for taking the time to come speak to this group, and I bid you a good evening, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Good to see you all, and anything I can do to help, or if you have any ideas, please reach out. I mean that, honestly. So, thank you very much.
Please.
Thank
You've heard
you.
from me, I really like your plan. If it was
Smaller, less.
It's a great plan.
On the other side
It
of
is a
the
good
state.
plan. Well, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. On the agenda,
I have a comment to.
No, actually not. Available anytime.
I do not serve on this committee, with all respect, to be subjected to casual conversations on whatever somebody might feel like presenting. We've spent, maybe a half hour doing this? For no particular reason. There have been public forums available for anybody who had any questions to have a back and forth dialogue with these people. This was not the appropriate place for that to happen. In the future, if we're going to have more conversations, I would like to be notified ahead of time so that I could decide if that is how I wish to spend my time.
thank you. Yes, sir.
My comment is that, given that something out there, Minto, is gonna happen, right? Now might be the time to get in and sit down and decide what it is we want it to look like, where we're gonna connect. Period.
Yes,
Because if we don't, and we don't ask for everything we want, if there's $60 million donation to the county, then we're silly, we're being just silly. They're gonna say, oh, they didn't talk to us, we don't know what they want, we don't even know what the crossings look
This
like.
wasn't done the right way, I'm sorry.
That may or may not be. I don't know if it's the right way. I'm still quite new at this, but I can see that if we don't take a chance, an opportunity to have a discussion, or at least lay out what it might look like, we're missing the ball, because we're not gonna get a second chance to ask them.
Well, this
They're
is-
gonna say, well, we didn't hear from you, so guess what, you can.
That's why I gave the comments I gave, because our biggest struggle is that this density that they're proposing is creating a tremendous amount of traffic, and to have no horse-oriented people in there, nothing to maintain all of this. and they
Get that you're
promise
upset
us
with
up the
Minto,
road-
but
No,
they can promise up the wazoo, whatever, in the end, these people are gonna be gone, and whoever is going to be in here is going to be there.
Anything else? All right, item number 4, old business, 4A. Consideration of final approval of the town equestrian signs. Mr. Cudney, would you like to offer anything on this?
Sure, we provided this to you. This is how, we talked with our attorney. This is how we think the sign should look. This is the actual statute. We found out that the statute that was quoted on the Indian Trail sign was actually incorrect. So, this is kind of like an idea as to how it would look. Also, I'm pleased to tell you that we have budgeted the funds. If you've been attending the council meetings and following the budget dialogue, the money is there. So, it's your final approval of that. Once the budget is approved, we should be ready to go and move forward on this.
And I understand that this particular sign is almost $1,000 less than what we were going to spend on the larger yellow signs.
Yes, it is useless.
There has been a question about the colorization of the graphics on this sign. Member Corning had made a comment. Would you like to start off with?
I thought it was red. Who remembers this? I thought we
The
did
law
the
for
red.
horses was to be black, is the law was to be red.
And then I would suggest that I think this is just for basic concept, but that this writing is going to be, I would probably take the 4 second, because slow needs to be, slow and visible. And that
So
should
a larger
move
font,
down.
a larger font on
A
it.
larger font, the slow needs to take the whole top up for horses, and then it's the law underneath that here, Florida statute down here. That is not as important that it gets this much space, but needs to be there more than anything, is the rest of it. If we can, when she's doing it on Word, you don't really have a way of adjusting type the way that somebody else would be able to.
Okay.
But the 4 should go on the second so that we can make slow big. The other thing is, and I've mentioned this to Tom and Mark Cudney before, but I think we have miscounted. I think we need 17. When I saw you, I think it was the IGC or some sort of meeting right after. Let me see my notes.
I was on the committee for counting signs.
Yeah, but you never got back to us.
And your sign had 2 posts in it, and all town signs supposed to have only 1 post.
Find that notes again because I kind of worked it through here. Okay, we have, let's count this up. We have Folsom by, where it goes into Okeechobee going north, which would be Folsom, because you can ride on that side. I had 2 in there, but then that's the question, I guess, of whether or not you're going to have one on the other side, whether there's ever going to be a trail. So that could be a potential one. There are 3 on F, both sides of Okie and then Southern, right? There are 2 on E, correct, on Okeechobee, right? There is 1 on the cut through.
Yes.
There are 3 on D, 2 on OP, 1 on Southern.
Would it not be 24?
There are 2 on C, 3 on B, 2 on A.
3 on C.
3 on C? I already made a mistake there. 3 on C. C doesn't go, why did I 3 on C? What am I missing?
Okeechobee,
No, 2 on Okeechobee.
2 on one connecting canal, and 1
C and north.
So you have 4 for each level.
Well, then you
so
would actually, in a
24.
sense, you would then, if you can actually come in on your road just the same. If you think about it, you can't cross the canal, but you can come in just the same. Would that be, wouldn't they all the letter roads then have 3?
Yes.
So,
So we were at 17, now we're at 18.
we're back to Mr. Alani. E would have 3.
cut through 1, 3 on B, 3 on C, 3 on B, and A, we also have 3? Yeah.
B has 4, did you
Yeah,
say
and
that?
actually that was one of the things, what about C Road and E Road, of something little like that, wasn't one of my notes.
Yeah,
I
no,
wrote
that's
it
why
so
they
long
have
ago.
3.
Yeah, yeah. So then we have 9, 12, 13, 19, and then the potential on Folsom, either is 1 or 2, so that's 20 or 21.
Let's get
Did I do
21,
that right?
because someone's gonna take one home for a souvenir.
Yeah,
It's good to have one in reserve.
or even 2.
All right. Do I have a motion from someone
Two
to,
reserve?
to establish the number, the quantity?
I make a motion to accept the number of signs that has been presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Desire? Shall we make a vote? All in favor of doing the signs as we discussed, changing the font of the letters, make the slow for horses in black, it's law in red, lower the per Florida statute to give more field area for the slow horse message. All in favor, say aye.
Well, the border was red too.
The border was red, let's make the border red.
And this becomes large space all the way up. Did you get all that?
Again, larger font, Florida statute taken smaller to allow more field area for the message, slow horses. So when horses are black, its law is red, the border of the sign is red. We're going to have 22 of them ordered. That's going to adjust the price from $14.96 according to the quantity of numbers, but it's still under the original $2,500. We were looking at the larger yellow signs. So that being said, all in favor of approving the sign in this quantity, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, it passes 4-0. New business, 5. We do not have anything for new business. Item number 6, administrative update. Mr. Kutman.
I have nothing to add.
You have nothing to add to that. Closing comment. Does the public wish to comment? No comment from Hearing no comment from the public, committee members. Ms. Chuck.
I have nothing to say.
Just wanted to let Joe know that I understand what she's saying. It's just the way this went down. It should have been done differently because we're going in the direction of the council. And I know how they've been playing, how they've been seeing everybody else. I've been hearing that more than once, and that's awesome. And I didn't want to have something come out of here that was going to upset the council. Versus specific advice of is there something they're looking for from it. In reference to the maps, where are we at with that? Oh, pretty much for us?
Yes, for a final review process before it's presented to council, before it's presented to each county attorney. I want this to be a committee.
Thank you, appreciate that very much. And then on that other note, in reference to the county is talking about 490 and using the Mitchell extensively for the Mitchell project. It's been said again today, it was said at Justice meeting last Wednesday, and I want you guys to be aware of that.
I saw a hand being a casual thing. Did you wish to?
No, that was him making the comment of
Oh, no,
shooting, it's being shut off.
Again, this idea of this presentation was made to the chair from members of town management and town council. And in talking with myself, basically, it sounded like something that I wanted to hear. It was put in the agenda. The agenda was made 5 days, available 5 days prior to this. I did not mean to ruffle any feathers. I did not mean to offer any disrespect to town council and his direction. I am pro-town, but you never know where someone might give you a helping hand to reach something that you wish to achieve. Not to say that they are, but if you don't listen, you don't hear. Based on that, would Councilman Golsonay like to make a closing statement?
I'm going to register that I still exist. Thank you all for coming.
All right.
Next time I get a chair.
Anything else being said? Do we have a motion for adjournment? Oh,
Yes? No, I'm quite done commenting tonight.
all right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
Okay, adjourned. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Motion to adjourn, you don't need a second.
I know.
I'm a Wookiee. I got to learn.
There's something happened with that line.
Real well, I gotta go outside and warm up.
Someone's going to run. So the next morning I got to figure out where I am.
Well, last year we did that, we had our little exercise, I mean, we didn't do one last year.
Somebody must have.
Yeah.